think we're kind of approaching that point in time where we're going to have to address the issue of the generation gap. Now, granted, it's not a new issue. That's something people have always had to address throughout time, but I'm talking more specifically in the media. Because recently there have been films coming into theater that only seem to appeal to people of a certain age. Namely people who are in their prime during the 80s, because that's most likely the demographic where you can use from the director of When Harry Met Sally as a marketing hook and have people know what you're talking about. Whether this is intentional or not, I can't really say. What I can say, however, is that the future of this film does not look good. This is your typical jerk learns how to not be a jerk storyline that we've seen in films like As Good As It Gets. While the title of the film doesn't get a name drop, we do have Michael Douglas doing his best Jack Nicholson impersonation as he plays the unlikable a-hole that the world has to put up with until circumstances force him to become human. With a moderately formulaic and, to be honest, somewhat dated storyline, we run into a bit of a disconnect between the story that is being told and the story that is being shown. And what doesn't help is that the film kind of commits the cardinal sin of relying heavily on exposition to explain why the characters act the way they do. And exposition can work if it's used right and used properly. And the thing to keep in mind is that film is a visual medium. You have the idea of show, don't tell. And on a related note, because of the fact that we get only some of the exposition to explain why the characters act the way they do, they play some of their drama cards a little too early, as some of the blow-ups or emotional outbursts that would usually reveal information at the start of the second act is shoved into the first act. And it really just communicates almost a sense of laziness, in my opinion. Again, got nothing against Rob Reiner, he's made some good films, but with this, it could have worked a little bit better. To use As Good As It Gets as an example, with Jack Nicholson's character, we're shown visually how his obsessive-compulsive disorder affects his life and makes him the way it is, even in some slightly subtle ways, with the way the character has like individually wrapped things of soap that he uses each time and then throws it away. Whereas with this film, we have the, oh, his wife died, and he has like an emotional blow-up at the start of the film explaining that, oh, I have compassion because I had to watch my wife die of cancer. We didn't really see how that sort of thing affected him emotionally. We're only told that, and that's just not good filmmaking. On a related note, there were a few story beats throughout the film that just felt really, really short. Like they could have used a little more attention instead of just being as short as they were, because it almost felt like Rob Reiner was basically doing the whole thing as filmmaking shorthand, kind of thinking, yeah, you already know what this scene is, but that's kind of the mistake to fall into. It's like, yeah, we may know what the scene is, but that doesn't mean you can't just not do the scene or not even give the scene its full attention, which is kind of sad because, I mean, the film's only 94 minutes long and it just feels rushed. It feels like there's just not that much enthusiasm for the project. And it's kind of problematic because there were some things in the film that could have been cut to allow those story beats a little more breathing room, a little more time to be a little bit more developed. And really the things that could have been cut were just some of the jokes that just really fell flat, as they kind of felt shoehorned in needlessly in order to appeal to some of the more mainstream modern moviegoers. The film is ultimately harmless, but I wouldn't pay to see it in a theater. This is very much a Netflix Redbox sort of movie. And in the terms of romantic comedies featuring older actors, this isn't as frustrating as Enough Said, but it does attempt to mask some of its romantic comedy formulas with a sense of self-awareness and self-referential humor. The problem is that it doesn't use it well enough to make the film particularly memorable. Now, Michael Douglas and Diane Keaton do turn in some good performances that kept me moderately engaged, but not enough for me to really recommend this film. So if you really want to see it, stream it on Netflix, rent it at Redbox, see it in a dollar theater. If you're that much of a purist, just don't pay full price to see this film. And So It Goes is not as good as it gets, as the film earns a 3 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.